What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Real Talks podcast. My name is Mike Singletary.
And I am Frank Chen, and we are going to be your hosts. And what we're going to do is break down what it takes to live life on your terms through entrepreneurship, specifically real estate investing.
So we're going to hit it hard, the good, the bad, and the real, because that climb, as any entrepreneur knows, is never smooth. So let's get real. My man, Mike McDonald, is a real estate investor and entrepreneur. He's from a small town in Nebraska and now living in Vegas. He's married, a family man, two amazing kids. He's done over 200 deals in the last 2.5 years. Pretty impressive, brother. Generating $2.5 million from virtual wholesaling and flipping. His company, Rocket Home Buyers, is based out of Nebraska, but you also operate in Iowa, Missouri, South Dakota, Colorado, and Vegas. And then now I think you've expanded to 15 other states. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're not running operations in those 15, but we have done deals in 15 states so far.
Got it. Okay. And you're also a coach, and you like to obviously help others achieve a similar success. Did I nail that, or did I miss anything?
Yeah, no, that's good. I need to update it though, because last year alone we did over 2 million. So
Sweet.
We should probably update that.
We should, man. Well, there we just did. So last year, what was your volume like as far as like houses or land or whatever?
Yeah. So last year we closed out with 93 deals and a little over 2.1 million in revenue. For me, it's not about the number of houses. It's not about the top. I could say I did this much top line, but at the end of the day, I want to know the gross profit and I want to know how much money I keep.
Right.
That's what's most important to me. And so we're running at about a 40% profit margin on that. And we invest a lot back in the business. It would be cool to take that much money and put it in my checking account, but we're investing back into the business and into assets.
Yeah,
which is the ultimate freedom for me and the long-term legacy that I want for my family. And so, we picked up 10 to 15 properties last year that we're keeping long-term as well.
Awesome. That's awesome, man. I mean, one of the things that I think the misconception of this business, they get in with very little money, and that's really not true. I mean, you need money to execute at a high level. Can you get in with low money and then do a deal here or there? Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're constantly putting money back into your business. And if you're fixing and flipping, and if you don't run that super efficiently, that's a cash cow as well. You know what I mean? And you're doing it. I've done fix and flips in other states. It's hard enough to fix and flip in your own city, much less doing it in another state and stuff like that. So you really got to get everything really dialed in. Talk to me about that process for you, man.
Yeah. Well, I've only flipped in 4 states.
Yeah.
The other, 11 have been wholesales, but it's primarily in one. And so the process for flipping is a beast, like you said. I mean, we're talking about a lot of capital, not only to buy the property, but to fix the property. And people can get in this path where they start to use their own money. And I talked to David Richter about this a while back. David's big on profit first and not using your own money and paying yourself. We can be making all of this money, but if we're not careful, we can have $500,000 sitting in properties before we know it.
Yeah.
And that happened to us at one point in time. And I haven't talked a lot about this, but this show is about the real and the raw. And it sucks because people can actually spend themselves out of business if they're not careful. And so what I would say for people who are listening to this not to do is to not use all of your own money on your flips, meaning down payments, renovations. Raise enough money to where it's going to cover your acquisition and your renovation if you can, or get a second. And just be responsible with the amount of money. And I'm not telling you this because I lost money. Thank God. I haven't lost other people's money. I have lost a little bit on a house before. That's just part of the game. I mean, you don't do hundreds of deals and not
a lot. So, I mean,
yeah.
That's another story. I could go into that, but I don't completely understand.
But yeah, man, I mean, as far as the setup goes, I mean, we have a general contractor, we have a construction coordinator, and they're always finding and vetting new people, and we have 10 to 15 projects going on at any given time in our flipping market, which is in Nebraska. That's where we're set up to flip houses respectfully and take good care of the project. Versus when we flip one virtually, it's certainly a lot more challenging. You have less things that you can control. Flipped the house in Florida from Las Vegas, and that was not easy. That was not a very it just feels like it's out of your control. It's like, man, I hope this contractor does what he said he's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I have that problem just with contractors in my area, right? But it sounds like in Nebraska you have a pretty decent relationship with your contractor there, or what does that look like? Because to me, that is the key when it comes to fix and flip, obviously.
I can't take the credit for it. So I don't deal with a lot of that side of the business.
Yeah.
I have a business partner. So that's what's super valuable for me, is he handles all of that. And he would probably tell you, and if he listens to this, he would tell you that he doesn't have it perfect either. We do the best that we can with vetting out people, but we got burned this year, man. Big time. We had actually hired a W-2 employee who was a former contractor for a builder who'd done a ton of business. Like they did 100 houses. We're like, oh, this guy's got it. He knows the systems. We're going to lean on him and he'll run with it and just crush it. We're going to scale. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
We start buying all these houses thinking that this guy's got it. And 5 months in, maybe not 5 months, thank God. I think it was like 3. My business partner started overseeing a little bit tighter because things just they weren't adding up. And he found that the contractor had been hiring a significant other through a different company that we thought was another company. And they were like funneling money through this company and saying that the work was done. The work wasn't getting done. And we weren't verifying it in real time.
Oh, gosh. Ouch.
Because we had
draws. Are you having somebody go over and take a look at the draws before you release it, or what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, so that relationship was different. Now it's like bulletproof. Now it's tight, laser tight.
That's awesome.
Because we got burned, but we trusted him because he was an employee for us. He was a project manager. He wasn't a contractor. So we thought, the project manager's definitely not going to steal from him. It's going to be the contractor that's going to steal from him. Well, we got burned by not just cross-referencing, checking, seeing what the actual spend was on each project in real time. Kind of just got comfortable, right? We just kind of let it slip, and so we lost some money on that deal, and our attorney basically said, "Hey, good luck. You're probably not ever going to see that again, and it's not even worth pressing on." So we just chalked it up.
Doing business, man.
Yeah, and we just moved on, and haven't looked back since until I just brought this up right now. So,
well, I mean, I think we've all made that mistake. I definitely have as well. And especially because you're building relationships and stuff like that. We have a system to where, we'll send an inspector in there with the scope of work, and then we'll give them a draw. But even then, that's not bulletproof because you're depending on the inspector, and the inspector could be in cahoots with the contractor, because that's happened to us as well. Right. So it's like, man, you know what I mean? And so everybody looks at this virtual game as being, glamorous to a certain degree. I don't know if glamorous is the right word, but easy. Maybe it's a better word, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard. And then, the ironic part, and I think that you might be finding the same things, that, we started when we were decently capitalized. We started doing a lot of flips, and we transitioned to wholesaling. Whereas a lot of people go into the business, start with wholesaling, and then transition into flips, right? And we just like the wholesale model a lot better because obviously the cycle of money is a lot quicker.
Big time. Yeah, no, that's for facts, man. And we were trying to get away from it. It's weird. It's like our vision was, we just want to virtually wholesale. It's a lifestyle business. It's easy. Yeah. And then we found that when the wholesaling wasn't as fluid, actually as of late, over the last really 12 months, wholesaling kind of, I don't want to say dried up because we're still doing it and it's still successful. It's slowed down.
Yeah.
In the buyers, the market that took the biggest hit, in my opinion, was the market for the wholesale deals, because cash buyers were even more conservative, so they weren't paying as much. So in order to combat that, we pivoted and started doing novations. And that's been the biggest game changer for us in our business model, because we don't have to flip the property. We don't have to take the risk of buying it. And we could still make pretty good rips on these deals that were duds of wholesale deals, that were dead wholesale deals, in fact. And now that's what we're doing, and we're buying a lot less flips right now. But it's challenging, because if the deal's there to buy as a flip and we know it could make a lot more on it, it's like just really tempting. But it's like, it's this teeter-totter juggling act where you're like, man, do I take the 20 now, fast 20 now, or do I take the slow 40?
Fast 20 all day, every day.
Because it turns into a 20 by the time you pay for holding costs.
If it's 50%, I'm taking the money. It's such a, and I understand, because I've done the 40 or, as well. And it definitely did dry up. Even on the Skip Force side, we saw marketing for investors dry up. It was like a faucet that turned off in July, right? And then people started to stop marketing. And what we're seeing now is everything's starting to ramp back up again. But for a while there, the last, Q3 and Q4, there was that perception gap between what the seller thought their house was worth and what we realized it was really worth now in this changing market. Did you guys, it sounds like you guys experienced that as well.
Yeah, no question. We definitely experienced that. And Q4 was not our best quarter. In fact, it was a brutal quarter. And Q2 started to pick back up. Q1 of 2023. First couple months were kind of slow, starting to pick back up, and we're full steam ahead. We have, I think, 7 on the board for this month already, like new contracts.
Nice.
Which is really good to see, because I'm like, team, why aren't we closing these deals? Because we're still spending the money. And that's the thing that you talked about, you had mentioned in the beginning, is if you're not marketing, you're not doing deals, right?
Yeah, it's tough, because that could be expensive. I mean that is expensive, right? If you're doing volume, you're really putting a lot out there. Let me ask you this, man. What does your marketing look like?
Okay, I'm sorry. I was counting deals. We have 10. we have 10 on the board for this month,
man. I mean, that's
awesome. I told my team, I'm like, hey, if we have, let's just be real. In this game, it's a success rate thing, right? So if you get 10 deals, you're lucky if you close 10 deals.
Right. I know. That's a great transition. So what's your typical fallout ratio? And for people that don't know what fallout means, it means that you put it under contract and you're not able to close for whatever reason.
Yeah. And sorry, I'll get back to your marketing question.
Sure. I can hear that later.
I'm a squirrel over here. I was sidetracked. Success rate, fallout rate is last quarter 73%. So not fallout rate. So out of 100%, we closed 73%. Okay. So out of 10 contracts, we closed 7.3.
Not bad for virtual.
No, yeah. I'm comfortable with it. The industry standard is about 70%. If you're pushing less than that, you need to really start to figure out better your renegotiation strategy, or do a better job on the buy and set clear expectations for these people. And that's where novations has really been a game changer for us.
Dude, I love that you brought up novations. That's something that I never do. That's one. And we looked into it, and it just seemed like it was more trouble than it was worth. So here's my limited mindset that's kind of stepping into this, right? Because I'm like, you have to control the buyer, you have to control the seller, and then you have, 2 different contracts you got to merge in, which the seller's going to know about both, right? Obviously. So it's really about the sales process and the conversation that you have with them on the A to B side, the front end side, the first contract, right? So how did you guys navigate that, or how do you guys navigate that?
Well, very carefully first and foremost, because you really have to lay it all out there. There's no skirting what's going to happen like you can get away with in a wholesale transaction. We're like, oh yeah, I'm buying it. My partners and contractors and whatever, right? So anytime, and for us, it was actually kind of a forced change. And the reason I say that, Mike, is because we had the Nebraska Real Estate Commission crack down on wholesaling in Nebraska. In fact, they made it illegal to wholesale without a license. And so what we had to do was either buy everything, hire a real estate agent to license it, and if we're to market it. And if we did that, well, we need to get a listing agreement. We need to get disclosures and all these other things. And we're like, how do we do this? What do you need to do here? So it was novations. And the pitch is the most important part of innovation. And so when we're when we're pitching these, our strategy is going in with a low cash offer. This is the guaranteed sale price.
Right.
And it's going to be a no. And if you didn't get a no, you probably offered too much.
Right.
And so you negotiate that, and hopefully they don't hang up on you, but then you come in real quick to save it before they hang up. However, I was able to get you approved for my full service program or my concierge service or whatever you call it. And I can't believe they approved it. They haven't approved one of these in a while. Like it's like a, wow.
Right.
Like the seller's like, man, this must be pretty good. Like, what's this what's this concierge service? All right. So here's how this looks. You explain it to them. The only difference here, Mr. Seller, is rather than this taking 21 to 24 days, like our cash program, it's just going to take, usually 30 to 60 days, and we're going to need some more access. We will get our agent involved with the transaction, but I just want you to know that we're not representing you as a real estate agent. We're going to be actually taking care of all this for you. So you don't have to pay for any closing costs. You don't have to clean the house. We'll take care of everything. And so we do. We actually, once we sell that program, we go ahead and, get with our agent, get with the seller, work out their timeline, help them hire a professional cleaner, come in there. I mean, we're taking some risk, but we know our numbers, and we know that it's a calculated risk, and we set the stage. If you don't set the stage, you are going to piss off a ton of people.
Absolutely.
And I tell my team this, over exaggerate. Like, we're not buying your house. I'm not going to say I'm buying your house, because I'm not buying your house. We're basically a consultant. We're basically marketing and handling everything for you. Something like a partner. And then I get myself, rather than against them in a negotiation, I get myself on their team and then just close it. It happens fast. It has to happen fast, because if you start over-explaining it, if you start getting too many questions, there's too much confusion, it has to be an emotional, quick thing. Because, and one thing that I get, and shut me up, man, if I'm going too long.
No, please help me. Please, man. I want to know about this.
Yeah. And if you get to the point where they're like, well, why wouldn't I just list it myself? And I'm like, hey, that's a great question. And you can. Well, would we make more money if we listed ourselves? Probably. This is the best part, guys. You don't have to lie to these people.
Yeah.
The reality is
you can't.
You
got the other contract coming in that they have to sign off on.
Exactly. So my point though is, I think a lot of people hear this conversation, man, and they're like, why would anybody do that? And the answer is value. Yeah. You're providing a level of service and value and a reassurance to them that all of this is taken care of, and your bottom line net is going to be this price regardless. And it could happen that you messed up and the market didn't demand what the price you thought it was going to be, and in that case you got to tell them what the worst case scenario is. The worst case scenario is you have a clean house because we hired a cleaner and you wasted a month. That's probably the worst case scenario.
Right.
And then they're like, okay, can I live with that or not? And then go from there.
So whenever you get a lot more than you anticipate on it, has there ever been a situation where you're really having to mitigate that? Because obviously, you know what I mean? It's a pretty big spread, right?
You have to have a title company who knows how to handle these transactions.
Okay.
Our biggest deal on this is $70,000.
That's a nice spread.
It was in the middle of nowhere, too, by the way.
But you didn't know that, right? I mean, you didn't know what you were going to be able to get. It was a chance for you. I mean, it was not a chance, but a risk for you.
Here's the best part.
Yeah.
It didn't sell on a wholesale. We had to retrade and reset the stage, and we didn't it was like converting a dead wholesale deal into a $70,000 profit. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure there are people out here listening who might have a dead wholesale deal, maybe not a $70,000 profit. Like that's.
But you're monetizing it.
But you're turning something into nothing.
Right.
And we actually gave the seller their proceeds because we felt so confident once they gave us the permission to sign the novation docs and do all this stuff, list the property, limited POT. I mean, we got to do a lot of documents here.
Yeah.
We wired in the difference for their funds, and we gave them some more money at the closing because we wanted to take care of them for the inconvenience that we had caused. That way they could continue to move on as if we closed the property and moved on. That's the only time that's ever happened. But the point is, sometimes you got to give a little bit more than you initially anticipated because of the circumstances, and that was your question. So it happens. But we try to just set it all out there and work with title companies who get this, where it's not going to raise any red flags. The seller's not going to say, hey, you bought this from me for $100 and you're selling it for $170. What's going on here?
Yeah. It's a tough sell, but since, I mean, it's such a relationship, negotiation, transaction, right? You obviously have your sales system and process is pretty dialed in. I know this because I know you, right? Talk to me about your team and what that looks like.
Yeah, as far as like the sales
everything.
Process.
What is your business and your team looks like right now?
Yeah, man. So we have 3, we'll call them rocket agents. So like our virtual assistants, but they're lead managers. They're really good at it.
Yeah.
And we had 3 closers. Just let one go recently.
Are they stateside?
Yeah. All of our closers are in U.S. Actually, W-2 employees.
Got it.
And got a full-time transaction coordinator and full-time.
That's only one TC with the volume that you guys do.
We had 2. So we had 2 all the way up until about a month ago. And she ended up moving on because we were actually a lot slower at that time. And so we're like, okay, we can, with the volume that we were at during that slower time, one person, it was starting to kind of be questionable. Do we really need 2 people?
Right. Gotcha.
So it's kind of a mutual decision. But anyway, with the TC that we have right now, they're not going to, we're going to have to bring another TC on real quick, especially with novations.
Yeah.
And we've even talked to David about a service as kind of helping us with some of the transactions as well.
David Olds?
Yep.
Yeah.
So just to see, if that makes sense to maybe give them maybe some of the more complex ones, and then my TC can handle some of them too. But then, disposition. I have a gal who helps with the recruiting. She's kind of like an executive assistant. I think our biggest missing piece right now to get me and my business partner a little less involved, and I forgot to mention we have an integrator. He helps with a lot of the putting all the puzzles pieces together and just helping us with process, really. biggest missing piece though is like an operator. I am still actively acting as the operator for the most part.
An operations manager, I'm assuming.
Yeah, operations manager.
I got you. Okay. That's interesting, man. I mean, and I know you do virtual, obviously. And with the volume that you guys are doing, when did you make that transition from belly to belly to virtual? Or you should straight go into virtual from the beginning?
Yeah. So I always knew that virtual wholesaling was a thing. Yeah. And I just didn't necessarily know how to do it until I closed my first deal. Cause for the listeners, the background here is I was busted and disgusted 5 years ago.
I want to hear about this. I mean, we talked a little bit about it, right?
Yeah.
And part of our and not to mean to cut you off because we're about to get real, is called a storm where the things that we go through and the things we have to overcome. So
cool. All right. Now it's a great time. And then I'll tell you the transition of the virtual. So 4 years ago, I was in Nebraska, and I was 4 months into the company that I own today with my business partner, and I was working a W-2 job, and my wife and I were working paycheck to paycheck. And when I learned about real estate, I didn't have any money, but I went to this seminar and they sold me on how to make money in real estate, no money down, you know the drill. Bought the program, paid way too much money. I paid 40. Well, it was 20. It was $1,000 to get there. Then it was an upsell to 3,000, I think it was. And then at the 3-day event, they sold us on a $20,000 package, which I did not have the money for at that time. So I put it on credit cards that they helped me get, by the way. I didn't have them. So I'm sitting here with 0% interest credit cards that I just got a line for, I think it was like 50,000. And I already put 20,000 on there to get the education. And then I got home from the event. My wife says, hey, I didn't want to tell you while you were there, but you are going to be a dad, and we're expecting a baby. I'm sitting over here like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Man, I get goosebumps just thinking about this, because at that time, man, I had no business putting any amount of debt on credit cards because I already had student loans. I just bought a house. I was barely making ends meet the way it was, working the job that I was working at the time. And that's how my real estate journey began. But what's important about that is about 5 months in to this journey, I was having a hard time. I was like, man, this is tough. What I'm doing is not working. I need some more help. Ended up getting a phone call from the company who sold this education. They're like, hey, you need a one-on-one mentor. And I'm like, clearly I need something because this is not working. So I ended up putting another 25,000 on credit cards. I'm 45 deep, and
those guys are good.
They're good, man. They're good.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about making an emotional decision. So anyway, long story short, fast forward 7 months in, I got my first deal. So kind of telling the story backwards here, but I got that first deal, and right after I got that first deal, I met my business partner, and I decided I literally just made almost as much money in that deal as I made with my full-time job. I was only making like $35,000 a year.
Okay. So
and
you had a really big one.
Yeah, it was a $22,000 wholesale deal.
Okay.
Yep. So that was my first deal. And so my wife and I paid off a bunch of credit cards, and she looked at me as I was pretty much burnt out because I was working the full-time job, cold calling houses and wholesaling houses on the weekends. And she said, hey, you can't keep doing this. You either need to quit. We need to sell the house. And we had just lived there for like a year and a half. I'm like, what do you mean sell the house? We just bought this. It's like the American dream, right? Mm-hmm. And long story short, in May of 2019, we sold our house. I told my business partner I was moving to Vegas, straight up. And I moved to Vegas in October of 2019. And that was our first year in business. I quit my job, I sold my house, and I moved across the country.
Why Vegas?
My wife's family was here, and she said that it was a cool place to live and that we'd have fun here. And so we said, okay. And we moved. But fast forward to the first deal in that same year, a month after I moved here, I closed my first virtual deal, and I beat out one of our big our competitors at the time. And I just remember he messaged me. He's like, dude, how did you I know you're in Vegas. How did you just close this seller that I was literally just standing belly to belly with? And I'm like, well, I asked them, where they were at with their price and if this price would cut it. And they said yes. And I sent the contract and they signed it. That's it.
Yeah. I offered more than you did.
I offered $1,000 more than you did, man.
Right.
You had a good deal.
There's a lot of secret to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so only if it was that easy, right? But
yeah, it's true. It's true. It's not.
So yeah, that was the start of the virtual business.
Yeah.
And I know that wasn't like a drastic failure or anything per se, but it was the story and the journey of really what I had to go kind of face adversity for to get to where I am today. And the adversity is just getting started. I mean, when the market shifts, man, and you have $100,000 a month of overhead, if you don't have $100,000 plus a month of income,
400.
Who pays? Yeah, who pays for the payroll? Who pays for the marketing?
Yeah.
So then you have to deal with that. It's just a bigger problem. At first, it was $1,000 a month of marketing. Now it's 40. The numbers are just bigger. So
still there. I mean, the problems are just like your point. The problems get bigger, but your hero's journey was really the 7 months of, I'm sure, anguish and doubts. And you know what I mean? A lot of nights you staying up with your kids and your wife right there trying to figure out, man, do I have what it takes? Right. And wound up did. And that was really the differentiator between most people that I have talked to. And it is not so much is that they're more intelligent, is that they just will not quit and will not give up on themselves. And that's what I'm hearing from your journey. Yeah,
clearly. I mean, I grew up in a trailer park. You don't have to be the most intelligent person to do this business successfully. Come on now. Give me some credit, man.
Hey, listen, I come from a long line of WT, so I get it. You know what I mean? But that's the thing that binds us, because we came from nothing and we made something, and we know, I think everybody that's an entrepreneur that's done anything knows that it is unbelievably difficult. Nobody becomes successful easily unless you're, I don't know, some kind of trust fund baby. You know what I mean? But if you make it on your own, it is unbelievably difficult. And if it wasn't, everybody would be this way, right? But so kudos to you, man. What's the biggest challenge you're seeing right now in your business, and what are you doing that moves the needle the most?
It's a great question. Biggest challenge in my business right now, gosh, I think it's keeping a team very excited to continue to make calls in and day out and keep the culture at a high level in a virtual climate. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, may not realize that, but when you have a company, it's so important that you do have a culture and a camaraderie amongst the people where people are excited and energized to go to work. And I have to manage a team of people who are all over the place.
Right.
We're not all going into the central location. Even though we do have W-2 employees, we're not all going into the central location. So that's our biggest challenge right now, hands down. That has been. And so what we're doing about that is we're moving forward. We're going to just do our best to keep people in one central location as best as we can with a central hub. And I think that's going to allow us to really elevate on the acquisition side. So we might be doing virtual deals, but we're still going to be in one central location, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. So let's talk about your kind of your lead flow. You got prospectors, your cold calling, text. Are you texting at all or no?
No, we're not texting right now.
Is it just cold calling, or what is your marketing? Going back to what does your marketing piece looks like?
Yeah, so we're big on inbound. Okay. So like, I don't know what, man. I don't know why, man, but cold calling has just not been something I've been patient enough to stick with. That's been.
I didn't know that, dude. I thought you were definitely heavily into that. I was wrong.
No, I'm big on inbound. So, one thing that, we can't take for granted, because in the beginning it wasn't this way, is being able to spend money on marketing.
Yeah.
Like we're big on PPC, we're big on Facebook, some direct mail, and then and that's for the local market. We don't do direct mail all over the place. We can do PPC, we can do Facebook pretty much nationwide. And then we were running TV for a couple of years. We paused that for now because, we're spending $15,000 a month on just TV
in one area,
in one location. So it was really a big nugget. It paid for itself. I mean, we spent probably $150,000 on TV last year. And, we made double that at least, but we don't that's not a good return.
Yeah.
I don't like double. I want
4.
I want 4 to 5. Yeah.
I think 4X has to be the minimum, for it to be a successful campaign.
Yep. And so another component to that is, just we have some pretty good closers. Guy's been with us for 2 years. He's done really well. He's personally bought probably 70 houses for us. We're looking for more people like that, though. He made almost $200K closing deals for us last year. That's
awesome.
People would love that, to have a job where they can make that much money. And so we're looking for more people like that. And that's been a tall task. So I have a recruiter who she's just scouting for those types of people. So if you're listening to this and you want to make $200,000, hit me up, man. I want to
absolutely
talk to you.
I mean, you're obviously doing something right, because AM has always been a problem for me, right? If we have a good one, I could probably only keep them for 12 to 16 months, and then they're going to go out on their own, which, I'm an entrepreneur. More power to you. We try to keep them by giving them equity or whatever the case is. It just hasn't worked out for me. And then we started doing overseas closing, and that was hit and miss, big time. It took a lot of effort. What are you doing that you're obviously doing something well? What are you doing that you feel is really retaining these AMs and keeping them within your culture and your company?
It's a great question. And that's where I feel like we're a little bit different than a lot of other companies who are doing a lot of acquisitions. We're a volume acquisitions company.
Right.
And what comes with volume acquisitions companies sometimes is a lot of turnover. And even though we have had a little bit of turnover, we take care of our people. Our people and culture is everything to us, and our reputation is everything. And so we never burn a bridge. Even if we have to let somebody go, we never burn a bridge. But we don't have the business model where we're recruiting 5 people at once in a week, and then whoever doesn't last, no commission, just gets kicked out. We've kept a pretty fair base, and that's why I think we've retained a couple of the people that we've had for quite a while. Because,
you mind sharing what that base is? If you do, it's no big deal.
Yeah, it's $50K.
Okay.
So
hey, that's solid base, man. And then you give them a commission on each sale as well.
Yep. So the base, and this is ever changing and different. So I don't necessarily want to pay everyone a $50,000 base. I really leave it up to the salesperson. If a really good salesperson comes to me and they say, hey, I want to make $200,000, I will say, hey, here's option A with a lower tier commission, or here's option B with a lot more upside. We can help you out for the first few months, but once you get your pipeline, you're going to see that option B is going to make a lot more sense for you, and they'll likely choose option B if they're good. if they're good, they're going to make a lot
Any
more money.
salesperson that's good is going to choose option B. That's always like a filter, right? More times than not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's awesome, man. And so you've had 2 of them said or 3?
So we had 3 as of last month, and as of Friday last week, we had somebody go. So
I got you. And then the 2, one has been with you said, for a couple of years, and the other one, how long has he been with you?
So this other guy, I think he's going on 5 months.
Okay.
Something like that.
Typically, how long is your ramp up stage for an AM to where you're really comfortable that they are going to close the deal? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I haven't had a ton of acquisition managers, so it's really hard for me to say that. But for the people that we have had, they're usually closing a deal by month 2. If they're not, then that's a problem, because we do set a very clear path. It's a career path, really. It's like, hey, here's the minimum expectations for month 1. Here's the minimum for 2. Here's the minimum for 3. So your projected profit gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the minimum for them is $80,000 a month. And if you can't hit $80,000 a month, then we can't keep you on our team, because we have our overhead. And you have a minimum expectation. And it's not like they're going out and finding their own deals. That's a big difference, I think, about why we've been able to retain one of our best acquisition managers so long, is because he knows that competition that we're talking to, their acquisition managers are beating down people's doors and cold calling. And the conversations are different, man. Like when somebody calls us to sell who inherited a property versus when we reached out to somebody, the dynamic is totally different.
It's a totally different sales process. It's definitely an easier sales process. There's no doubt about that, you know? But in my experience, when it comes to AMs and training them, and obviously I'm done a poor job of it, right? Because we turn them up so quickly. It usually takes about 3 months for them to really grasp it, because a lot of the sales process of how we do things are counterintuitive, right? To be a really good salesperson in buying houses, you're really doing the opposite of what you feel like doing. And to get that really ingrained, it seemed to take, 3 months. Are you able to shorten that timeline? And if you are, how?
Yeah. Well, I have the cheat codes all in my back pocket. So I'm just kidding. Well, I mean, honestly, it's so true, right? Daily training.
Yeah.
Daily training, a very clear onboarding process. This took us 3 years to develop, by the way. It didn't just always happen like this. It took us a lot of money invested to other programs. I mean, my sales guys have been through John Martinez, Josh and Tiffany High. Yeah. We went through programs, and this is ever changing. And so I would say the biggest catalyst is a crystal clear process, and then daily training and role play. And the one that everyone hates is call reviews. If you're not reviewing calls, how do you know if they're dropping the ball at the last minute when they could have said this to close that deal? And that's what a new salesperson needs, is they need that extra feedback, because otherwise they'll never learn. So we talked about, I'm the sales manager right now. We talked about this morning.
That's awesome, dude. All right. You know what, man? That's why you guys are crushing it, because we do it as well. We do it as probably as much as we should. We do it with our ISAs every day. We don't do it with our AMs, which is silly. I mean, truthfully, right? I mean, like, they're the ones that actually should close the deals. But now we've transitioned to land, which is such an easier sales process. And it seems like this particular person that's on our team right now, we have several of them. It fits them extremely well. But that's fantastic. Repetition. I mean, that's what I'm hearing,
People get comfortable, man. I mean, I'm guilty of it.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it myself. I mean, our salespeople who've been with us, sometimes they get comfortable. It's like, oh man, I got this pipeline. I'm good. I'll go on vacation. It's like, yeah, we kind of need you to continue to do that.
Yeah, we need you to close, man.
Yeah.
So, I know that you have a coaching program as well, right? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So basically, I'm passionate about helping people get their first or their next deal and then grow their business to where they can remove themselves.
Yeah.
And so for me, what I have is a group setting is what I found people are the most receptive to learn. And that includes bi-weekly trainings, Zoom calls with me, and then that gets them access to a course and it gets them access to A to Z process. So we have basically departmentalized our business where it's like, hey, when you're at this phase of your business, here's what you should be doing. But when you're ready to get to this phase of business, then you need to delegate, like get the paperwork off your hands as quick as possible. Here's how much you should pay an acquisitions agent. Here should be their quota, right? So have all that laid out there in a group setting.
Is it a program? I know you can answer yes to this. Is it a program you wish you would have had at the beginning? I'm assuming that's how you developed it.
Dude, the competition, let me just say this, isn't that steep. When in all respect to all the coaches out there, yeah. I know how hard everyone works. Yeah. I've just been through a lot of programs.
Yeah.
I've paid a lot of money. And so I've been there. I've seen that. In fact, I'll still buy programs just to see what they're doing in there. Is there anything earth shattering? Is there anything that I'm missing?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, I mean,
that's the key though, bro, because I'm the same way. I'll still buy programs, you know what I mean? Just to get that one thing out of it or a couple things out of it. Right. You know, since we transitioned to land, I bought programs for land to see how we could, make that transition and smoother and stuff like that. So coaching is, if you want to expedite your learning curve, coaching is where it's at. And Mike here has it dialed in. So, if you're interested in Mike's coaching, where do they go, Mike?
Yeah. So you can check out the link that I had put on here for my name. It's thevirtualmillionaires.com.
I have it down there. Yeah.
Yeah. So check it out. Grab a free training. I got an acquisitions accelerator you can get access to with my sales script. So yeah, Mike, it's just been, for me, I have an obligation to be able to give back and help people because I don't know it all. I'll be the first to tell you that.
Yeah.
But when you're business for a few years, you learn a few things. You learn about what not to do, and you learn about what works. And so hopefully we can help people take that shortcut.
That's awesome, brother. So if they want to find you, besides the coaching link, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can give me a follow on IG. It's at Michael McDonald REI. And I'm on Facebook. Hit me up. It's actually The Virtual Millionaire on Facebook.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's another Michael McDonald out there. I heard he's like a famous singer or something like that. So.
All right. You got to put real estate behind it, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, cool, man. That's a wrap. Thanks for joining us and see you on the next episode. Thanks, Mike, for being here, man.
Appreciate you, brother.
So that's a wrap. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you received value from this episode. If so, please share this podcast with your friends so we can help more people just like you. Also, hook up with us on Facebook, IG, and YouTube at Real Talks. That's REIL Talks. So until next time, keep it cool and keep it real.